Hello everyone and welcome to my presentation about market segmentation analysis. My name is Ahmed Amri. I'm a fourth year student of IBMS International Business and Management Studies, and today I will be defending my MOOC presentation. Let's start by looking into our table of contents for today's presentation. So first we'll have a course overview. We're going to look into the course, what is actually the material is about. Then we'll move into the successful completion proof, which will show a proof that we have finished the course during the given time. Thirdly, we'll look into the structure of the MOOC and how the MOOC, how the material of the MOOC is spread among the course. Fourth, we'll look into the timeline and how I have managed to complete the course within the given scope. Next, we'll have the subject summarization. This will be followed by learning outcomes and what we have learned from this course. And finally, we have point number 7, which is my MOOC comparison, and number 8, which is planned to implement, which will be giving a real live example that I have benefit out of this course. So yeah, let's start by looking into the course overview. As I just briefly mentioned, that the course is about market segmentation analysis using data. The host of this course was the platform edX.org, and the provider was the University of Queensland. The effort that was needed to complete this course was 8 hours per week, and the length was 5 weeks. In total, that gives us 40 hours of 40 learning hours. The level of the course was intermediate, and the the focus of the course was in using data-driven market segmentation. Overall, the material of this course was taken out from a book called Market Segmentation Analysis, Understanding It, Doing It, and Making It Useful. So this was an overview about our MOOC defense. Let's move now into a proof that we have completed this course. We have here a screenshot of the course itself and saying that we have finished all the material needed to accomplish this course. Moving into our next slide, which will be talking about the structure of the course and how the course have been, or how the different subjects have been spread among the course. The course is focusing actually in 10 different steps. These steps will at the end get us to a point where we say, okay, let's implement market segmentation, or let's not implement market segmentation. The first step will be deciding to go or not to go. And there is certain features, there is certain elements that every organization need to decide before deciding whether to go for market segmentation or not. The second point, which will be specifying the ideal target market. In order to accomplish market segmentation, we'll need to see how is the market spread and what's the best or ideal or the common sense target group for us. Thirdly, which is collecting data. As I just mentioned previously, that the course is focusing about data, how we can collect data that could benefit our company into market segmentation. The fourth point, which will be exploring data. We will collect a lot of data, but not everything we collect is good or useful for our company. Therefore, we'll have to identify which of the collected data is perfect for our market segmentation. The fifth point, which will be extracting segmentation. When I speak about extracting segmentation, which is selecting the most ideal data that we need. Sixth, we have profile segments. So I will have to identify what are the main segments, and we make a portfolio for them. Next, we'll have describing segments. So we need to know what are the main characteristics of the segment we are targeting. Next, we have selecting the target segment. So after we have identified the optional or the ideal segments for us, we need to select one that looks most attractive one for us. There is different method that's used in this step, which will be discussed later on. And finally, we have 2 points, which are customizing the market mix. When we speak about the market mix, there is 4 main points that we need to put into account before implementing the market mix, which will be also discussed later on. And finally, we have evaluation and monitoring. It might sound that evaluation and monitoring is less important point. However, it is very, very valuable point for us as an organization, because that step which will help us to learn which mistakes we have made and how we could improve these mistakes. So to start with, let's look into the timeline and what actually, or how many days or how many weeks it took us to finish this course. So starting with in this 4th and the 7th of October, I took this couple of days moving into different platforms such as Coursera, Udemy, edX, and so on. I was looking for a course that meets my interest, is something that I want to do, that's something that I'm passionate about. So that will be my motivation to do this course. On the 7th of October, I have sent the proposal to the supervisor and he have approved my MOOC, and there was a starting point for my MOOC defense. The week for the first week we have, which was from the 12th till the 13th of October. This was the starting point, which I have finished Module 1 and Module 2. Module 1 was discussing the first 2 points, which is selecting to go or not to go for market segmentation and specifying the ideal target group for us. The Module 2 was more about data driven, which was about how to collect data and how to explore the different options that the data will give us. Week 2, we actually was just on a week later, which was from the 19th and the 20th of October. As you could already notice that most of the given dates are during the weekend, because I wanted to have a good use of my weekend through learning the MOOC course. So on the 19th and 20th of October, I have learned Module 3 and Module 4. Module 3 was focusing on extracting segmentation. Why the segment while left alone, only with one step? Basically that here there was a training in how to use database, which takes a lot of time and effort. Therefore, this step was taken individually. Module 4, we have profiling segment and describing segment. Moving into week 3, in week 3, which was the period of 26 and 27 of October, Module 5, and this module we have actually taken into account 3 different steps, which are selecting the target segment, customizing the marketing mix, and finally evaluation and monitoring. And in the week 4, which was actually the last week of this MOOC course, which was the period from the 23rd and 24th of December, which was preparing for the presentation. After that, in the 25th, I had the defense presentation. All right, so we spoke overall about the course, the material, the timeline, and what actually the course is about. Now let's have a short summary about the course so that we show what are the benefits and what we have actually learned from this course. So we speak first of all about Module 1, which is deciding to segment or not, deciding to go for market segmentation or not to go. Well, what's the issues that might company face during this period is that they might have barriers to implement market segmentation. So it's very important for us to ask ourselves before going for market segmentation, are we ready? Do we have the right team? Do we have the right people? Is the communication between the company employees share the same target? Everything needs to be clear before we decided to go or not to go. Because for instance, if I had decided to go for market segmentation and I don't have the right people and the right time to implement that, then the result will be a disaster. So therefore, it's very important to ensure that the company does not have a strict barriers before implementing target or before deciding to go for market segmentation. The second step, which was specifying the ideal target segment. Here there was 2 different methods. Every method was giving us a certain perspective or certain insight into our target group. So the first criteria we are going to use when it comes to step 2 is called a knockout criteria. Knockout criteria, the answer should be yes or no. There is no evaluation. So we cannot evaluate something from 1 to 5, for instance. No, the answer should be yes or no. To make this clear for us and for everybody to understand it more, let's take an example of the Dutch supermarket Albertine. So if Albertine wanted to make a market segmentation, so they want, for instance, to target, let's say, the Asian community in the Netherlands. So the first question would be, is the target group is large enough for us? Is it reachable? Is it matching? When we speak about matching, do we see, is Albertine's strength meets the needs of the target group? So answering these questions, if the answer was yes, that means, okay, we can go to next step. But if the answer was no, that means we should stop market segmentation and maybe moved into mass prediction or mass targeting. And the second criteria we could use also here, which is called attractiveness criteria. Attractiveness criteria is a tool that's used evaluation process. So we can measure something from 1 to 10. And an example of that is how the competition in the market. So let's say that Albert Heijn want to target the Asian community. Is the Asian community, is that market where they supply, let's say, an Asian food, is there competitors? How strong are the competitors? So we can evaluate the strength of the competition in that industry or in that market from 1 to 5 or from 1 to 10. So this is what we call attractiveness criteria. And then moving into module 2, which is speaking about collecting data. There is two different ways. We can distinguish two different ways when it comes to collecting data, which is common sense, which is using one variable, and data-driven, which are using multi-variables. What we mean by variables, let's say that Albert Heijn want to target people who are using, let's say, who are spending, to make it easier, people who have an income of, let's say, 2,000. All right, so these are a target group for us, but that's the income is one variable for us. But for instance, in many scenarios, when we use data, we have income, we have gender, we have so on. So there we have more variables to take into account. And then in this module or this chapter, have also highlighted the sources of data. Internal sources, it could be internal sources or external sources. And a good example of internal sources is the loyalty card that Albert Heijn users have. Every time they go to Albert Heijn, they scan the card, so that card contain a lot of data about the behavior of the users. So that could be a way of getting an internal sources. And there is an external resources here where we can collaborate with external providers of data, such as big companies, for instance, Deloitte or the Big Four. So this was the third step. And then when it comes to the fourth step, which was exploring data, and after we collected the data, we came to a step which we call it cleaning. What we mean by cleaning, that, okay, we have collected a certain amount of data, but not everything we collected is valuable for us. So in this step is very important to distinguish which data are valuable for us and which data we need to clean, we need to move out of our database. Why this step is important? Because this step will make our life easier. And that by because you will have less data, which means it will be clearer for us which target group we want to identify. And the second thing, we have data illustration. It's very important to know how we're going to organize the data we have. Should we make a table? Should we make a graph? Okay, if we make a graph, what kind of graph we are going to make? Because, for instance, imagine having the behavior of thousands of consumers in a table. It would be very difficult. It's almost impossible to identify different target group. But if we have them in a chart, that will make our life easier, because the target group will be almost very clear for us and we can identify it easily. Moving into module 3, which was extracting segmentation. And when it comes to extracting segmentation, here we came with where we can, okay, let's say this kind of, okay, we are targeting Asians and with this certain of incomes, okay, Albert Heijn, we're gonna brings all these target groups together, which the consumers have less distance between each others. And then here, which drives us into what we call a distance-based method. The distance-based method is we're gonna see how is the distance between one consumer and other. Are they closely related to each other, or they are actually have different behaviors and different atmosphere, and their lifestyle is totally different. So it's very important to measure the distance between one consumer and other. So this was a summary about module 1 and 2 and 3. And now let's move into the last two modules, which are 4 and 5. Moving into module 5, which was profiling the segment. We need to identify what are the key characteristics of the target group we want to go to. Why is that important? It's important because we need to know what they're keen to do, what they like to do, because that will give us more opportunity to get to them and to convince them that we have the right product for them. And moving into point 7, which is describing the segment. In describing the segment, this course have actually highlighted one of the most used method, which is called tree-based method. And as we can see in the slide, for instance, let's take again Albert Heijn as an example. If you notice that Albert Heijn is not the cheapest option when it comes to the supermarkets in the Netherlands. But why people go to Albert Heijn? There is several reasons, but the most common reason is the convenient or the quality of the product. So that's why we have convenient in the top. But under it, there is three main different reasons, which we have, for instance, fast experience. That's why nowadays we see Albert Heijn to go almost everywhere in the Netherlands. And also that Albert Heijn is offering international food, which attracts a lot of non-Dutch community to go to Albert Heijn, because they will have a food or ingredients that meet their lifestyle, that meets their culture. And finally, as we know that Albert Heijn is a host or a hub for a lot of international brands, so which make it as one-stop shop. You basically go to Albert Heijn, you are almost going to find everything that you want. So this was the module 4. Moving into module 5, which is selecting the target group. After we have identified the different selected group for us, potential groups for us, we're going to select one of them that fit with our company, that fit with our organization. And finally, which is customizing the market mix. When you speak about the market mix, there is 4 main different points that we need to take into account. Firstly, which is the product, and then price and place and promotion. In order to be able to target this market group, we need to change our marketing mix and make sure that our market mix actually meet the needs and the usage of the target group or the new target group. Finally, evaluation and monitoring. We did all this process. The result will be seen in the evaluation and monitoring process. If everything was clear, everything was identified, we'll know, okay, we have this is our strength, this is our weakness. We do a SWOT analysis and we try to improve our strategy for the upcoming years or for the upcoming period. So yeah, that was actually an overview about the course and the material, and digging a little bit into what actually was in every module. And now I would like to go into the learning outcomes. The course itself was a rich source of learning outcomes, but in order to stick to the 20 minutes we have summarized it into 4 main aspects. The first one, international business awareness. The course have provided me an insight into how big organization or international organization are actually implementing market segmentation. They are actually removing common sense and they're moving to data-driven segmentation, especially with a big and significant improvement of big data. Secondly, ethically and social responsibility. Using of data sometimes might be risky because you are collecting a lot of information about different individuals. It might get to a level where people see that you are abusing their privacy or so on. So therefore, it's very important to be ethical and social when it comes to collecting data without impacting or harming somebody else's life. Thirdly, we have collaboration. You will not always have the data internally, so therefore we will have to collaborate with external providers of data in order to get the data. So therefore collaboration with different parties would be very essential when it comes to market segmentation. Last but not least, which is business research. In order to get data, you have to research. In order to know the ideal target group for your company or your organization, you will have to make a good research about the external or the internal environment. Moving into how I have seen MOOC in comparison to other programs, there was also 5 different steps. Well, let's say here what are the advantages or what are the strong points that this MOOC did have, and something that we didn't see it in previous courses, which is firstly detailed information. The information in this course was very detailed. It gets you to the point which ensure that you have a clear understanding of everything that's mentioned in the course. The second point, which is data-driven segmentation. Most of the courses that I have studied before, they were only focusing on common sense segmentation, or they would go to data-driven market segmentation, but they will not dig into it and look into details. Thirdly, that this course had data-based training using the R system. So the training about the R system was very valuable and new to me. And fourthly, we have that this course had a lot of illustrations, graph, tables, pictures, which make the idea of, or which make the message of the trainer clear to the user or clear to the person who is making the course. Finally, the course had a lot of practical examples, a lot of international companies were mentioned, a lot of international examples were mentioned, which made it very interesting course. Well, I would like to finish by saying what this course actually impacted in my life. I actually work in a company, a startup, which specialized in educational high-tech. At the beginning of this year, we had only one target group, and today we did get to a level where we did recognize, okay, in order to grow more, we need to target more people. So therefore, I have organized with some meetings with the people in the company who are responsible for that in order to share this experience with them and to be able to target more consumers in 2020. To close up, there is very interesting question that we need to ask ourselves. We see that there is a big improvement of big data. We have companies like Facebook, Amazon, and so on, who have a lot of information about our daily behaviors. For instance, if today you go to a Coolblue website or to Albertine website, tomorrow or actually a few hours later, you will see a Coolblue advertisement in your social feeds, for instance, an Instagram feed or a Facebook feed, which show us that, which actually give us a question mark. Will market segmentation will continue in the near future, or we are going to see a new era where companies will go into individual segmentation, where every person will be targeted individually? So there is a big question over there. However, there is one concern: will we as a consumer accept that big companies are actually taking data about our personal behavior to use it for their promotional and for their financial intensives? That's a question that the upcoming time will answer it. So this was overall my my mock defense presentation, and thank you a lot for the attention, and I would be glad to answer all your questions.